for coming. I've been putting these events together for the last few months, or since, it's been more than that, probably beginning of summer, right? To try to get everybody together. Basically, you just get all the different organizations in the same room. Was it in March? Was it that long? Oh my gosh. Okay, so that was the first, and then this is what, the fourth in person? So I just felt it was important to get everybody just to hear what we have going on. That's been the biggest complaint, is not knowing what other groups are doing. So that was my intention behind the Facebook group, and then to get these in-person meetings. So we have some great people speaking tonight. And I'm going to have Sean take over inviting people up, and I'm going to hear about all kinds of recaps of what's happened this year, along with what we have coming up in 2022 to look forward to. So thanks again for coming.
All right. So lots of good things have happened, and lots of good things can happen. I think I'm going to tee up some of the things that may happen, and I think we're going to talk more about that with Jeremy Johnson from Assembly for the Arts, and Anson from Destination Cleveland. But one of the great things that happened in the last 2 weeks now, I guess it is we hosted the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and it fucking kicked ass. And we got Greg Harris here. Something a lot of people may not know, we've been working with the National Independent Venue Association to save live music coming out of COVID. And it's because everybody here called their representatives and supported and sent emails that we were able to get that bill passed. And because of it, over $100 million has come to Northeast Ohio alone to venues and theaters and movie theaters and museums. Yes, that's awesome. The people that made that happen were the state captains from National Independent Venue Association. And Greg stepped up and invited all of them to Cleveland to attend the induction ceremony, and made a point in his remarks from the stage of recognizing the work that independent venues did to save the industry. And he said that in front of Jay-Z, he said that in front of Taylor Swift, he said that in front of all of the industry bigwigs that were there. And for that, and for everything that the Rock Hall has been doing, in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, some stuff I won't even mention that has helped out the clubs. I'll let Greg mention if he wants to. Let's give him a round of applause and bring him up. I see a lot of microphones. Yeah, you can stand, you can sit. I'm just going to sit here and try and
we'll sit here like it's like we're on a set. How's that? Over to you, Sean. So, Sean, thank you for that very nice introduction. And Sean mentioned this group called NEVA that if you've heard of them, you know all the good things they do. But for those that aren't, it's the National Independent Venue Association, and it's people that you know, but in other places around the country. So in Cleveland, it's Cindy Barber, it's Kathy at the Grog. It's the folks at the Music Box. It's Mahal's. It's probably Winchester.
Gabe down at Bobstop.
Bobstop, that's exactly right. And they had captains for each state. And our own Sean was the Ohio captain and a real leader because of his past experience in Capitol Hill. So Sean, he was modestly a huge leader of the movement. Okay. And I'm honored to be in the job that I'm in, but the reason that I'm in the job is because of places like this, or places like the Metro, or places like First Avenue, or City Gardens, or Maxwell's, and I could get out at the 930 Club. That's what gave me my love of music and rock and roll and convinced me that I wanted to work somehow connected to it. With that in mind, I think a lot of these places are also hiring. So folks that are here for an industry night, even if you really want to be a publicist or or something else, I think Cindy might need bartenders. And when you're tending bar, you're meeting every band that's rolling through, and you're getting connected to people. And I just throw that out there, not because Cindy asked me to, but there's a way to get into this, and I think folks are always looking for that way and that connection, and it can be at all different levels. But I'm honored that they came to Cleveland. These folks had been meeting online twice a week, had never met each other in person, and they showed up and they reunited right here at the Happy Dog, and it was a really beautiful thing to watch, and amazing energy. And if you know the folks that I named that are running clubs in Cleveland, picture getting like 50 of them together. It's energy and excitement and really a blast, and we were thrilled to do that. I do want to talk a little bit about, pardon me, what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame did over induction. Not so much to blow our horn, but to let you know that there's good things happening, and also to here, I'll just do that. And that there's good things happening. We want to do more. We don't want to be an island that exists just for people that come from out of town, park and go to our place and leave. We want them to come to Cleveland. We want them to spend a couple nights. We want them to hear the rock boxes blasting up Ninth Street, come down to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, go over to these venues one night, go over to Guitar Riot during the day, really experience all of Cleveland. And when they do that, they also bring their conferences, trade shows, conventions, and others back to town. In fact, the NEVA group is probably coming back next July to have their first annual meeting, and it'll be in Cleveland. So all that stuff comes together. But for the induction, I want to peek at some notes because I've got numbers and I want to get it right. You know, during the inductions, we had over 200 members of the national media. I think you may have referenced that, but we had all of the entertainment outlets, radio, writers and others in town, and most of their stories are not just about who was on stage, but what a great city this is and how it embraced them. Of course, we had 14,700 people in public in Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse enjoying that, and typically 90% of the attendees come from outside the region. So they fill hotel rooms, they shop, they spend, they leave money behind. The economic impact of this induction will be over $50 million to Northeast Ohio. It's pretty amazing, and this blows my mind. We had an analysis done in 2018 during the induction. There were 22,000 room nights booked from induction guests. 22,000. Some of the other stuff that happened, Sean mentioned that we partnered with some of the local clubs, and it was Happy Dog, again, Mahal's Bop Stop, Beachland, Grog Shop, and also Agora and House of Blues. And we worked with them so that when we marketed Induction Week, we marketed everything they were offering that week as well. Again, we wanted people to come to town and spend a couple of days and really get immersed in Cleveland. And they were amazing partners to help us do that. They booked artists, they booked things that week. They went a little further, and then we tried to broadcast it to the world to make it grow. We kicked off the inductions with an event we call Celebration Day. It was on the Sunday before induction, and it was free admission for anybody from the state of Ohio. We had a bunch of local bands playing. It included a band called Detention out of Akron that's pretty great, and we had other local artists performing. We were supposed to end the night with free fireworks for all of Cleveland. It was raining like hell, so we had to postpone them. We think we're going to do them December 18th. Mark your calendar. It will be a Winterfest fireworks celebration to the soundtrack of this year's induction class. So maybe Jay-Z isn't exactly holiday music, but that'll be blasting when we blast the fireworks off. Some other things was we worked with the Cleveland Public Library, and we do a thing that's called Rock by CPL. We do it all year long, but we did something special with Brent Kirby and Ray Flanagan playing. And I just share some of that because we book artists all summer. We do Thursday free shows with local bands. We do Friday ticketed shows, but we're not trying to become a huge venue that competes with those other venues. It's about creating a vibe. It's creating a region to connect downtown and the lakefront. And through induction, we managed to have Big Jewel Green played some of our stuff. We had Detention, We had Falling Stars played, and we mentioned Ray and a few other artists, and then our summer artists in residence played as well. And we're trying to do more with local artists, and again, it's not to become a venue, but it's because rock and roll and music isn't just about history, it's about what's happening today. There was something else that I wanted to mention that it reminded me of. Oh, as I'm sitting here, I hope it's a message of, you know, as Lisa's putting this group together, it's a matter of communication, because I do think there's a lot of great stuff happening. Think about tonight alone. It's Thursday night, right? The new Soft Shoe is playing at Forest City. The Falling Stars are playing with the Smithereens over at the Music Box. And Marshall Crenshaw and the Smithereens were in the museum earlier today, so they're telling all their followers about Cleveland in the museum. And there's another show going on. There's some... Maggie Rose is at the Beachland. Okay, we'll get to the grog next. Maggie Rose came to the Rock Hall today and did radio interviews from our place, did social stuff for us. And again, the message is always, I'm in Cleveland, I'm at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and this is amazing. She's at Beachland. Small Pools is at the Grog Shop tonight, and it's, I think Elevation Partners are doing something in conjunction with that. So, like, there's stuff swirling around, and sometimes it is more of a communication and a connection challenge than it is an actual execution. And if you can keep the communication open and really help each other, that's a big part of why we jumped in with NEVA, and we try and work with the right groups, because you can't work with everybody, but if it's right, you want to say yes quickly, and then really make it work. And at the same time, it could be the greatest idea in the world, but it's bad timing, and it's not the right thing, and you got to say no quick. But then you need to go, and you can't be in maintenance mode. You've got to be in change mode, and you want to be in constantly thinking and pivoting and changing, as opposed to just trying to maintain. If you try and maintain, it's not going to work. So, Sean, are we going to do like a Q&A, or what's up?
Well, I just wanted to say, and because we're going to have Anson up here later in the night, one of the things that was really a model for us moving forward as a city is the listings that you did about the shows at local clubs on the induction site, on the Hall of Fame website, is the first time we've had that sort of consolidated, curated calendar of music that was accessible to a group of people coming into town. And it's just something I think that we need to take away as one of the successes, as something that we can build on. And the fact that the Rock Hall, you and the Rock Hall, got so involved in what was happening in the clubs in the week leading up to induction, so that the people who were coming to town knew you were going to have a good and varied calendar of music that people could see, and you helped the clubs with that, was really the model going forward. I mean, the way we are going to be a music city, we're not going to recreate Beale Street. We're not going to become Nashville and put a bunch of clubs on one street downtown. We're Cleveland. This is a neighborhood-based system where we have music with the Rock Hall as a hub. And I think the groundwork that got laid through this and the years leading up to it is just a great platform for us to come up with additional ideas like your resident rockers, and being able to market their shows in our venues as these are Rock Hall resident rocker shows. Stuff like that, those kinds of tie-ins, I think it's just a matter of communication and collaboration, and it's not a dollar thing, it's a communication thing. And I think one of the great things that has come out of COVID is the level of communication that's been going on. And
I agree with you, Sean. Thank you. It got really easy to jump on a call with people, and so people were sharing more and talking more, and the information, having that accessible and communicating it out. I don't want to get into the numbers too much, but there's a crazy number that I have to share, and that is in the 48 hours around induction, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in turn Cleveland, had 12.75 billion media impressions. 12.75. You think about how many clicks, how many likes, how many whatevers. It's staggering. And the goal when people see stuff and they see this week of events isn't that they're going to go to everything. It's that there's something here. And even if they're not coming to induction that moment, they're saying, I got to put Cleveland on my list. And there's a lot going on there. I can't wait to roll through there when I'm traveling or when I'm doing this. So it's a longer build. It's not just immediate. And there's a halo effect from big events like this. And the halo effect from induction will carry us. We're going to get another bump on November 20th when it's broadcast on HBO. And in Cleveland, we'll get another bump through that. And we'll roll into amazing holiday season. But we're very grateful for the city for embracing the induction and for embracing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not just at induction, but all year long. The people of Cleveland helped build that place, and that's why it's here. And we want to do stuff, Sean, as you pointed out, not just induction week, but other times of the year, and maybe a dedicated spot so people know what's going on in town as they plan their visit, and they can patronize our places. They can support our artists. They can keep our crew members employed. They can keep our service staff, all those people. It's really important. And we know how important it is because for a year it was completely shut down. And all those people were in dire straits. Let's get out of this, and we seem to be rolling and just keep going.
That's awesome. I know we got a big calendar on here. You probably need to stop in at New South Shoe, I'm guessing, and say hi to your co-worker. Let's give Greg a round of applause. Thank you. And then I think it's a good segue to bring in Jeremy Johnson.
Thank you.
Because talking about that past year and how tough it was, not just on the venues, but everybody who worked here, everybody who played music. And so I think in bringing Jeremy up here, the new head of Assembly for the Arts, he's got a lot to tell us about American Rescue Plan, COVID relief dollars that may be accessible coming up soon. And we also have a new mayor, and we have an opportunity to get some of our issues in front of them. And I've got a few, but I'm not going to upstage Jeremy. I'm going to let him, and then I'll just hit you up with my thoughts.
Well, it's great sitting next to one of my heroes, Sean Watterson. And let's hear it for Greg Harris, Rock Hall. I was there for one of the big nights the weekend, just walking over to Rock Hall during one of the big reception nights and seeing this big local band playing on the stage. We're getting there. This is tremendous. I think the partnership between Rock Hall and our local musicians is something that you can count on Assembly for the Arts getting behind and helping to strengthen that partnership, amplifying it, and drawing attention to it. So I think a lot of you all know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Jeremy Johnson, and I'm the head of a new group in town. It's called Assembly for the Arts. It's basically the super big arts council umbrella that touches all the arts and creative industries. So we've got nonprofits, we've got small creative businesses like the Happy Dog right here, we've got individual artists, and we're meant to be all of that. You all always hear about nonprofits and how they struggle and they're fighting and they're getting grants, and we do that too. We work with Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, but there's a whole big part of Cleveland, we've heard about it today, that we don't want to fall through the cracks. And it nearly did, except for a few people, one key person in particular, with a lot of help, who made sure that our live venues stayed alive in Cleveland. And I just got here, a lot of you know, just back in June, after spending a lifetime in New Jersey. Grew up here, but left for New Jersey. But I remember reading about NEVA in New Jersey and all across the country, but how it was started right here in Cleveland. So, before I get back to my my brewski over there, let me just go over some really big things. Assembly for the Arts, we're really about two big things. Expanding the pie of resources for all this creative industry, and increasing the equity for this whole industry. So, you talked about good news, Greg. For me, a great piece of good news is that we do have new leadership in the city in the mayor's office, and we're going to have an opportunity to leverage that leadership to invest in expanding the pie. I'm happy to report that Mayor-elect Bibb has gone on record in front of many of you in this room and in writing and in Can Journal to say he's going to put a key person in City Hall at the highest level to coordinate and connect the dots around arts and culture. Right now, it's a whole mishmash, and yeah, let's get some applause for that. And Assembly for the Arts, we're going to be advocating for that and working there, and Mayor-elect Bibb is putting together his transition team, and we got to make sure, and I know Sean's in it already, so we're going to be tag teaming together. And that's what's so great about tonight. This is not the first night of the music industry group. There is a collective here. There's power in collectives. I don't need to tell you guys that, but we got to continue it, especially as we're coming out of COVID. So let's talk about COVID for a second. We talked about the NEVA grants that went to a lot of our live venues. You already mentioned over $100 million, over $300 million for the state of Ohio, and you helped push that through. I'm getting your reports. Thank you so much. But that ain't enough. And the good news is this, the dollars are still filtering down from Washington, D.C. These COVID impact dollars are filtering down to your state government, to your county government, to your local school district, and yes, even to the city of Cleveland. $1.5 billion to be specific, with a B. And we at Assembly, we're working with our partners to advocate that a portion of that should be going to COVID-impacted nonprofits and for-profits like this place and other similar places and artists. I testified before your council people for $10 million. We're knocking on wood, it's not guaranteed, but let them know. Let them know. Let your council people know that we need COVID support to support our creative industries because we're working behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. So that's number one. Expand the pie, get more resources. Secondly, I want to talk about, there's a lot of details that we need to get into, and some of my good friends are saying, enough with the generalities, Jeremy. What specifically are we going to do? What are we going to recommend to our mayor? What do we need? So part of our role at Assembly is to gather this information, spit it back to you, and then take that information to the mayor, to the council people, to our county executives, to our state people. A number of things have come up. I'm not going to bring them all up, but I will bring up one thing right now. I think what we all want to do is create and be able to live and be able to own our homes, to own our business, and not get priced out of our neighborhoods in the process. There are things that we can do to put some safety nets in place that are not in place. If you invest in a business, you invest in an arts creative, a gallery, in a space, in a neighborhood, you build it up, and then next thing you know, you're priced out. You got to move out, and you created the value. What can we do with our city hall, our county, our state partners to make sure we have policies for cultural destinations that protect that? And I'm not going to get into the wonky things that other cities and states have done, and community trusts and land trusts where you own something or you have ownership of it, and despite how the market goes, you still have ownership of it because you're a cultural group or you're a social impacting group, and you hold on to that. So there are things we can do with this new mayor. So that's a couple things. And then there's some fun things that we can do. And it's already happening. Amanda knows what I'm talking about. So tons of live musicians here. How do we coordinate? How do we make opportunities, whether there are tens of thousands of people here as a result of Destination Cleveland? Where are you? Destination Cleveland. Are we busking? Are the rules relaxed so we can busk? Do the police know that they don't need to kick you off the corner if you're out there doing your art in front of these people? So we're working with Amanda, with Destination Cleveland, not just for our big tentpole events, but throughout the year, and new parks that are coming on board. So those are two or three things, and I know I'm going to have some questions from my guy here. But I want to acknowledge who's in the room. Where is she? Meg Matko, my partner in crime. Meg is our community engagement person at Arts Cleveland, Assembly for the Arts.
Thank you.
So,
Jeremy, thank you for that overview. And I think as a group, broader than venue owners, it's everybody in this industry. We need to get specific about what we want if we're going to get anything. And so we know now that there is a request in for American Rescue Plan dollars at the city level. We did get an ask in last year through the county for CARES Act funding. That came through. 2/3 of the money went to arts nonprofits, and for the first time, 1/3 was split between for-profit small businesses in the music space. Broader than shuttered venues because we were able to bring in soundstage and lighting companies, but we also were able to get money to 424 artists through that program. Now, when I think about going forward, the artists, and I use that term very broadly to include all of the people who work in arts-based businesses who were impacted by COVID, I would make them the priority and would just
All right,
ask.
we got applause in the back for the artists.
I'm putting a plug in. Before that split was 2/3 for nonprofits and we split a third, half and half between. I would go so far as to say half the money should go to the individual artists, the creative workforce, with the other half split between the nonprofits and the industry. So I said that on camera.
Right?
That's
All right.
that's one of mine.
We don't have the money yet, but I think we should go for that.
And then I know that there are other.
You don't have the money
specific
yet.
issues. I know that there are others, and I think we should all work with Assembly for the Arts to really define what those needs are, how much people need, how do we get people who need the money aware of the fact that the money is there, so that we overcome communication issues, so that everybody who's been impacted is taken care of, and we don't leave anybody behind. I think that's really important because we've been able to take care of a lot, but we haven't been able to take care of everyone, and we really need to take care of everyone for this to work. Then, in terms of specific issues for the new mayor, I'm just going to put a few of mine out there, and I would encourage everybody in the crowd, if you've got specifics, we've got a little bit of time, but not a lot of time, to come up with a policy agenda to take to the new mayor. I know admissions taxes has been an issue, and we were able to get some relief on that. There is a question, should we take the approach, if we're going to be a music city, to exempt live music altogether from that admissions tax? I think it's worth looking at the economics of that, what that impact might be. I know the bigger the club or the venue and the higher the ticket price, the bigger the impact that is. But that can make us a more attractive place for touring musicians, and it can also make this city a more music-friendly city. So I put that one out there, and I really do appreciate you bringing up the concept of cultural designation for the arts-based businesses, whether it's venues, whether it's theaters, whether it's art galleries, whether it's places where artists live, creating either an avenue to ownership with some support, or ownership in a trust that allows people to stay in place, but then a second component which would also protect people as property values and property taxes rise, to return some of the property tax money to improve those facilities. And I think there's stuff we can do with tax incremental financing. He wasn't going to get wonky, I'm going to get wonky, because if we don't have specifics, we're not going to get anything. So I just put those out there as my personal wish list, and I ask everybody in this room to come with your personal wish lists of things that you think will help the community, the musicians, the people who work in the clubs, all of that kind of stuff. Because the more specifics we have, the more likely it is we'll be able to get something done. So that wasn't a question. I would have been thrown out of the city
Oh,
club.
that's good. And there are other city models. I know whether Austin, San Francisco have done this type of thing where there are protections for owners of cultural spaces and those who've invested in them. So we've got other models to look to and to tweak them so that they are Cleveland centric.
And Assembly for the Arts is going to be our best friend in this. They have a political action committee. They have the mandate to look after all of us who are in the creative workforce and in the creative industries, regardless of tax status. If Assembly for the Arts succeeds, we're going to succeed. And we need to succeed together. So it's why you keep seeing Jeremy's face popping up in these conversations and around town. And I would encourage everybody, like I say, to get specific. Let's figure out what we want so we can get in front of the mayor-elect and ask for it.
Jeremy, did you mention that November 17th?
All right. If you want to get more wonky, November 17, we're doing a virtual assembly with Assembly for the Arts. You can check out our website at assemblycle.org. And we have information for November 17. What time is that going to be, Megan?
It's 10 a.m. and then we'll be talking about these recommendations and policies.
We'll be talking specifically about the recommendations and policy. We've been taking notes, not just right now, but at the other sessions as well.
So for everybody here, you got a deadline. If you want something specific, be ready coming into that November 17th meeting with your ideas, because that's where this stuff's going to get discussed. And Meg is either clapping or giving me a high sign to send stuff sooner. Nope, she's clapping. That's good. All right. I should have the agenda memorized. I don't know what's
All right,
next.
who's up next?
But while we're figuring that out, let's give Jeremy a round of applause. This guy's up front. All right. I'm old, and I don't have my cheaters. That's not very rock and roll. Amanda, you're up next. All right, Amanda Nix. Yeah. Come on up. Let's welcome Amanda.
Hello, everybody. So I'm here today to talk about Listen CLE again, because I can't stop talking about it. If you don't know what Listen CLE is yet, you haven't been paying attention. We have cards. Michael, stand up. Give a wave. Michael has info cards about our core programming. If you run a local business or know someone who does, we also have info sheets about our program, which are important for businesses. We'll talk about that in a second. So please find Michael. Also, while I'm talking about Michael, give it up for Michael because he's the one who created this. It is so much of his time that worked to create our core programming. He is the musician of us who is living and breathing Listen CLE every day. So big thank you to Michael. So Listen CLE, if you're not familiar, is a local music initiative originally started to target local restaurants, retail stores, hotel lobbies, any place where music plays over a loudspeaker to the public. And we decided not enough of that loudspeaker music was local. So Michael put together, we have 9 mood-based playlists. They're not genre, they're not style, they're not location-based, they're mood-based. So if you want to feel groovy today, you put on groove. If you need an energy boost, we have energy boost. If you're taking a road trip, we got a night driving playlist. We have a Misery Loves Company playlist, and my favorite joke is, since that's our most popular playlist, we've been really good at getting it into funeral homes. Yes, I always love that laugh. Thank you all. Thank you for feeding my humor ego. We have all these playlists designed to create a mood so that if you do have an establishment that wants to create a certain type of aura and stay local, it's all right there for you. Not only is it all grouped by mood, but we have 6 to 8 hours of music on every playlist, which means your workers who are there for a 6 to 8 hour shift don't have to hear the same song 6 times. Having been a retail worker, I hated that more than anything. So we're trying to look out for everybody here. including the musicians. So that's why this info sheet is important. If you are interested in putting Listen CLE in your store, in your restaurant, in your office, wherever you'd like to put it, this down here is very important. It is about legal music streaming. You must be paying the rights to use music. This includes if you're not playing local music, but if you're going to do it through our Spotify playlists, we do have a recommended system you can go through with Soundtrack Your Brand. They offer all of the legal coverage for only $50 a month, and anyone who's paying into ASCAP, BMI, those other places, you may be paying a lot more than that. We also have on here that if you are paying that $50 a month and you're streaming these playlists, over half of that cost each month is actually going directly back to artists in their royalties. So please stream legally so that artists get paid, and please stream locally so that local artists get paid. So there's my pitch on why Listen CLE as a playlist is important. But we've actually been doing a lot more than just putting music on playlists lately. We've been given so many great opportunities, starting with the NFL draft in April. Thank you to Destination Cleveland for helping us get buskers out on the streets, helping us find funding and more information on how to legally busk in Cleveland so that we can get more of our local musicians in front of these giant national audiences that are coming into town. We were working on it for the Rock Hall, but between weather and some other scheduling issues, we weren't able to get too many people out there, but we do have some more events we're looking at for 2022. We also have some programming coming up. We just started a new partnership with the Cleveland Public Library. Let's talk and combine forces on some of that stuff. I didn't know you guys were working with them. But we are programming the entire week of Maker Fair next week, which is Monday through Saturday at many different branches across Cleveland. 8 of those branches will have live local music. And Michael and I will actually be performing on Saturday night at the Science Center to wrap it all up. So check out your local public libraries. They're going to be having more live local music, and I believe they're going to be starting to work with the playlists as well. So huge new partnership there we're very excited about. We're also tenaciously knocking down every door that we can, trying to get more local music everywhere. A lot of people have commented, why doesn't the airport have more local music? We missed some opportunities there. Not for lack of trying, but I think somebody was just saying lack of communication. If we can get those connections made to the people who have the time and the resources. There's a lot of people who are doing a lot of great stuff, and there's limited bandwidth. We all have limited bandwidth, right? So when we can get those connections to the people who can handle them and manage the next step, we can make more possible. So Listen CLE is trying to help open some of those doors, take the burden off of these organizations that are working at this level and maybe don't have time to build this level yet. We can come in and help build that level and enhance everybody's programming across the board. We love that we are getting to partner with great organizations like Destination Cleveland. Cleveland Rocks, Past, Present, Future has been helping us build. The Rock Hall has been helping us build. Cleveland Public Library now, Ingenuity Cleveland, Bright Winter has reached out for some connections. We've got a lot of great partners and events that know how important this is, know how valuable it is, appreciate it, and want to build it, and are giving great spaces for opportunities, and we're just really happy we get to keep building that. In 2022, we're going to look for a continued event coordination. So if you've got a big event coming up, let us know. We can help you place local musicians. We can help you with getting them paid. I know a lot of times it's very hard to get a bunch of performers through payment systems, so we can help with that. You can give us lump sum. We'll take care of distribution. We can help with understanding the local ordinances. Thanks again to Destination Cleveland for a lot of heavy lifting on answering questions about what about this ordinance, what about this one. So thank you for that. They'll talk more about that, I think. Yeah? Am I stealing your thunder? Sorry. Anson is the reason I have any thunder, so thank you. We're also going to be trying to do a little bit more marketing to the local businesses. This was our core goal, and we really want to get back to that in 2022. I think we can address a lot of the issues we see at venues of getting new people to come. We see a lot of people go to shows and it's the same crowd. How do musicians expand? How do venues expand their clientele? Well, there's so many Clevelanders who don't know how much great music is going on here in Cleveland. That's something we want to help solve by getting more local music in venues. And then we also want to start just getting the word out to regular people that they can access local music as easily as, you know, hopping on Spotify and putting on a playlist. So we're going to be working with some local podcasts, trying to work with some radio stations and get some commercials out there. Thankfully, we were awarded an Ignite Impact Award from Ingenuity Cleveland, so big thank you to them for some funding, finally, for our marketing side of things, which is why we are able to give you all beautiful information graphics. Please take them. Please make them worth every penny. And please share them. If you, like I said, if you know people who would benefit from this information, grab a couple copies. Please help us distribute. Marketing is always a challenge to get the word out. You can help us. We would appreciate that. It costs you nothing to say, hey, you own a business here. But it could make a lot of money and a lot of exposure and a lot of good opportunities for your local musicians. So we do finally have a little bit rolling in to help us promote the mission. We've been very lucky that Michael is also a wonderful graphic designer. Thank you to everyone who has complimented the beautiful logo and cards that he has created. I'm very, very proud of what we get to show people, but it's all him. And then finally, along those lines, we always need funding. Anybody knows any good grants? Anybody has money they're looking to invest somewhere? Put it in local music. Let us know how we can turn your music into, or your money into our music and opportunities. We want this to really help local musicians be seen, be heard, be visible, and get paid for what they're doing. So anything you can do to support Listen CLE is appreciated. And thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. I think we'll bring Anson up here, and then if whoever can stick around, we'll have questions at the end, kind of across the board. So thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Next up on stage, Anson from Destination Cleveland, and please welcome our friends from Destination Cleveland.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. First, just a couple of thank yous, and I have my notes because I have the pleasure of giving updates on behalf of many different parts of Destination Cleveland. So, wanted to thank Lisa again and everyone for coordinating these events. I think the theme is that connectedness and convening is going to move things forward. So the fact that we're doing this regularly, like Greg mentioned, like Sean's mentioned, everyone else, Jeremy, Amanda, and really thanks to everyone I just mentioned there for all their work and what they do. So, and thanks to Sean for hosting the legendary Happy Dog. And really, again, thanks to everyone in the room for their hard work, because I think a city is only great. A city is the sum of its parts, and we're fortunate that Cleveland has some great parts, and you could apply that to the music industry as well. So the industry in Cleveland, the music industry, is only as great as the sum of its parts, and we have some fantastic parts. The world-class Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and everything else that has been mentioned tonight. So what we do at Destination Cleveland is the fancy way of saying what we do is we're Cleveland's destination marketing and management organization. So really, that's just a fancy way of saying it's our job to bring people to Cleveland. Simply put, we try and get people to come to Cleveland and not only get them here, but once they're here, have an amazing time in our city. So we really work behind the scenes. Amanda was mentioning, her work at this level and organizations working at this level. We're really kind of behind the scenes and more of a convening organization, trying to amplify, to use a music industry term, all the great work that is happening and bring it all together and do our part there. So really we attract people to Cleveland, we enhance experiences in Cleveland, and all with the goal of changing perceptions of Cleveland. So for tonight, I thought I'd share a few ways that we've been doing that and amplifying some of that work. A lot has been shared, some things haven't yet, but I'll be brief, and if we want to do questions afterwards, and I'm going to stick around too if anyone wants to chat afterwards. So the first thing I'll share is thisiscleveland.com/music. So thisiscleveland.com is our main website. The /music portion is something that is somewhat newly created, and Sean hinted at it earlier, of this need for aggregating concert calendars, music venues, listings, things to do all tied to the music industry, and that's what our role is as an organization. So the goal is for this page to serve as a hub for where to find live music in Cleveland, when we're always looking for ways to enhance it. So please check it out when you have time. and share feedback. And again, it's thisiscleveland.com/music. And this is something that Cindy has been mentioning for a long time. I know Mike Miller from Music Box. I haven't seen him here tonight, but he's talked about it. Many folks have talked about finding this aggregate source. So I'm excited to share that it's finally happening. It is by no means perfect or a finished product. And we recognize that, and we're always open to thoughts and ideas. So please check it out on your mobile device, your computers, whenever you have some time. And if you go there, you'll see music-themed blogs that we've authored, a list of local music venues, and information on upcoming concerts that have been pulled into our events calendar. And this was a key piece of a broader fall campaign that our marketing team ran called Roam the Land. It was in September and October, leading into rock inductions. And just a piece on rock inductions. So we did have a dedicated Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony event page, featured event on our site, and then those concerts that everyone did such a great job to amplify through the Rock Hall support. All the local venues, we made sure those were all on our events calendar as well, leading up to induction weekend, so everyone knew what was happening and all the fanfare leading up to induction ceremonies. And so with that website that I mentioned, as part of the Roam the Land campaign, we drove paid advertising efforts to this page. We targeted music fans in Cincinnati, Columbus, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and then 10 days before inductions, we said, listen, if you're in one of these cities and you haven't thought about coming to Cleveland yet, you might not, so let's focus all on Ohio. So we turned our advertising just to Ohio the 10 days leading up to inductions and said, hey, if you haven't been to Cleveland, come up here for induction ceremonies, check out all the amazing live music happening and all that Cleveland has to offer. So as I mentioned, this is a very much a living and breathing piece of our website. So please check it out. We'd love to build it out further and are always looking for ways to enhance it with all of you. Another thing I'll mention, and Amanda touched on it, so I won't get too deep on it, is busking. So just a big shout out to Amanda and all the work that she's done to lead that process, because one thing we always try and do with what we do at Destination Cleveland is when there's a major events and meetings and conventions in town is wrap the entire community around these events. And music is very much a pillar of the Cleveland brand. So how do we reinforce that we're a music destination? And it's things like busking, robust live music scene, and things like that. So we've been working behind the scenes with Amanda to simplify some of the ordinance language, also known as the Saxman Ordinance. Rest in peace for those that remember the Saxman. Joe Simperman was instrumental in revising that code and making it easy just make it easy to perform. And so, but there are some contradictions, and so we've been just trying to simplify that language a little bit to make it easy to interpret for street performers that want to go out and busk, whether it's a random weekend night or whether it's leading into a major event. And so, and we're hoping to continue that partnership with Listen CLE, and we've had some conversations with Jeremy and Meg at Assembly for the Arts to see if we can build out a process on how to make it easier to busk if that's your bag. Now, if busking isn't your bag, we recognize that. So, we recognize it's not fit for every musical act, performer, entertainer. So one thing that we've talked about at Destination Cleveland is how can we use our hotel relationships, and if a hotelier comes to us and says, we want to offer live music of this genre, here's our budget, and this is the time frame, can you help? How can we be that connector and make it easy and match them up with a musical act performer? Because we're not the experts on the music industry, we certainly amplify it, but all of you are. So how can we put a process into place to create around major events, live music in hotel lobbies, which in turn, hopefully people will see that as they're checking out the Rock Hall and then coming to see a show at any one of the number of live venues that we've talked about tonight. So that, and then I wanted to mention this thing called a music passport that we're entertaining. So the passport concept has gained tremendous popularity in recent years. It's really a cool way to aggregate and organize and incentivize people to do cool experiences. So we had a brewery passport that we launched in 2018 that's been quite popular. We're looking to relaunch that in 22. We've been working on an Expressions of Black Culture public art passport that should launch soon. And these are digitally curated experiences that you download directly to your smartphone. It looks and feels like an app, but it's actually a hyper-mobile optimized website. So eliminates some of the clunkiness that sometimes you can have with an app. And users are encouraged to check in at different places along the way and incentivized to complete the passport. So it could be as simple as winning a prize if you get halfway, or if you make it through all the stops on the passport, Are you entered into a quarterly raffle or drawing or a grand prize annually? We're entertaining the idea, like I mentioned, of launching some type of music passport. Would love input from this group here on what might make sense. So hopefully a next step is we could set up a dedicated in-person meeting, a Zoom meeting. We'll work with Lisa and everyone to figure that out. But more to come, but did want to share that. And then lastly, again, with the great work that's being done with NEVA, super excited to bring that conference to Cleveland through the leadership of Sean, the Rock Hall, and Greg's generosity when it comes to hosting that group during the induction ceremonies. And I just wanted to put a plug. So our sales team is kind of working behind the scenes to coordinate hotel rooms with that. So I want to mention that if anyone, and it's something that we don't share enough, I think, at Destination Cleveland, is if anyone in Cleveland is connected with a national or global music organization that gets together annually for a big meeting or conference, we have a program called Cleveland Champions, and we would love to engage you and help you bring that meeting or convention or conference to Cleveland. Because that's what our team does every day. We have relationships with hotels across the city, so we can hopefully negotiate good rates and deals for these conferences, which is a big decision-making factor on whether they're deciding between Cleveland or Cincinnati or Pittsburgh or any of our comp set markets. So we'd love to chat with you more if you're a member of any of those national organizations that gather annually, and see how we can help. And I said I wouldn't talk too long, but I feel like I've been rambling. So that's all I have, but really just wanted to say thank you on behalf of Destination Cleveland for all that you all are doing.
Emphasize that NEVA conference is the first time NEVA as an organization, their entire membership is going to be meeting together. And because of the work by Destination Cleveland and by the Rock Hall in welcoming the leadership of NEVA, it really cemented Cleveland as the place for the first conference. Maybe the annual conference, we'll work on that, but good to be first. That will bring not just the venue owners, but all of the people who interact with venue owners. So as we get closer to that, there is going to be a lot of lead-up work that we are going to do. We're going to want to put together a host committee to make sure that the bands in Cleveland get in front of a lot of these folks, that the music professionals who come here get to see what's here, and we can fill in some gaps that we're missing currently, and make connections nationally that will help us going forward a long way. So one other thing I wanted to sort of tee up with you, Anson, we've talked a little bit about this. I think the music community needs to have a regular communication with Destination Cleveland. And thankfully, Destination Cleveland has met with the venues, the Music Club Coalition. But if we could think about a way of a regular interaction, and I even threw out there, we need more music people serving on the board of Destination Cleveland or being involved. If Cleveland is going to make music part of its brand, then the music people need to be involved in shaping that brand and connecting the dots that aren't connected right now. And so I just put that plea out there, and I put that thought into the minds of everybody in this room about how you can get connected. And we'll look forward. I'm sure Lisa's going to have a message for us about how we can stay more regularly connected with Destination Cleveland. But really appreciate you coming out and stepping up. And this is CLE/music page. Thanks, man.
Sure thing. I'll mention one thing. I'm Sean's note, and I'll get off the stage. We are looking at launching some industry advisory committees in 2022, and so the pillars of the Cleveland brand in our mind are music and rock and roll, right? Arts and culture, sports and recreation, put simply. So how can we put industry advisory committees for each of those brand pillars and work collaboratively to just move everything forward. So I wanted to just put a plug in that is on the radar, and I'm glad you're always bringing it up, and thanks for mentioning it. Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anson. Next up, the godmother, the godfather, the queen of Cleveland music scene, Cindy Barber, head of the Beachland and Cleveland Rocks, past, present, and future.
Okay, a lot of people are here that like maybe don't know about Cleveland Rock's past, present, and future. So I'm just going to give you some history. I was on a panel discussion at the Rock Hall sometime in, I don't know, 2011 probably. And a lot of people were in the audience asking, what do we do? We're musicians. How do we get information? Why isn't there music at the airport? And obviously Austin always has music at the airport. Nashville has music at the airport, and I thought, you're right, we have to figure out a way to do something. And I tapped my friend Ken Margolis, who used to be the keyboard player for the choir, who was running the nonprofit law firm at Case Western Reserve. He was the advisor. So he was able to put the nonprofit together for me. And I called it Cleveland Rock's Past, Present, and Future to kind of broaden that scope that we need to recognize that we have an amazing past. We are the rock and roll city, really legitimately, and I don't think people realize why sometimes that Alan Freed was here, and he was pushing Chuck Berry and had the publishing rights for Chuck's songs, and basically broke black music to white people for the first time. And that's really significant, and we need to find a way to go back and celebrate that and do that history. The present part of it is, what do we do now to help the people that are here? I was really, thank you. I was really fortunate to be able to help two young musicians, the Black Keys, get started. They played their first show at the Beachland Tavern, and I remember sitting in a booth in the tavern and going, okay, now what do we do? And putting them in a van and sending them out and calling my friend in Chicago and say, go see them. And he signed them to his booking agency, and he also signed them to a management deal. And then we still sat at the table and tried to look through the Fat Possum deal, and we got them going, but the disappointing end part of that was that there was no industry here for them to be a part of. And they felt like everybody was pulling on their coattails and they couldn't exist in Cleveland, which made me incredibly sad. So they moved to Nashville, but the goal of Cleveland Rocks now, in some ways, is to, what do we do to build the next Black Keys, and also have an infrastructure in Cleveland that people don't leave. That means we need rehearsal spaces, we need funding to send people out on the road, we need sponsorship support, and all of those things that are happening. So that the future part is that we're going to have a music economy that is working with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is just part of the infrastructure of Cleveland. So that's the goal. But as anybody knows, building a nonprofit is a little bit of work. So it's been a struggle to get, we started this in 2012. It's now 2021. I also happen to run a venue, so that takes a little bit of time too. But we're at a point now where I think we're at a breakthrough, and a lot of that is because some of the people in this room, my friend Sarah Georgi is here, who's been helping us build capacity. Shelley, who's like head of the School of Rock, has been donating her time nonstop to help us. And we launched this really wonderful program this year, also with the help of Nick Howley and the Howley Foundation, which is the Music Incubator Program. So, it's in partnership with Neighborhood Connections, and that is giving $2,000 loans to musicians for projects that they want to do. We're on our third grant or loan right now, So it's very new. We have a mentoring system that goes with that. So if you get a loan, you have to come to 2 meetings a month via Zoom or in person, and you're working with one mentor, but you also have a whole advisory team. So people can ask, I need help with booking, I need help with trying to find a recording studio, I need help with like putting a business plan together. But this is all about really structuring a business. We've got legal aid helping us, we've got SCORE helping us. So we're trying to help people figure out, okay, if I invest this money, then I'm going to get this back in this way, and I'm going to be able to pay it back. And we're hoping that we can build a broader network so that people who start this program will then stay with it, and they can mentor somebody next year and say, I did this, and I did it this way. So it's a pretty ambitious project, and we're really fortunate to have David Kennedy, who's running this program for us, and he is sort of retired. He's retired from the Recording Arts and Technology program at Tri-C, and has all kinds of connections and good ideas. And we just talked about creating a survey so that we can help people, like, what do you need, what would you like to see happen? We just got a grant from Cuyahoga Arts and Culture to do 40 bands and live stream them so that we can help them record some kind of video YouTube content. It's one of the things that we're working on. And we're going to do a series of workshops next year about building in EPK, trying to sign up for your ASCAP. What do you need to do to get that money back that Amanda was talking about? Because we want those dollars to come back to our city, right? That would help everybody. So that's the main thing that we're doing right now, and we could use help. We could use people who want to help mentor other. You don't have to be an expert. You have to listen, because this is a very gentle process of just sort of kind of helping people. Yeah, maybe you want to think about that. Maybe let's look at that structure a little bit more. And we were able to give Corey Grinder and the Playboy Scouts our first $2,000 loan, and that made it possible for them to extend their tour that they did a few months ago without fear that they couldn't pay their band, right? They had a little backup money, and we're doing documentation of how that affected them. The second loan went to Joe Wolf to finish his record, and we're just about to give $2,000 to a wonderful person who wants to do single recording projects that David can talk about too with people later. If you have any questions about the process and what the program will be.
All right. Thank you, Cindy. Lisa's got her hand up, and she's going to come up here. While I was getting a beer, Tommy from School of Rock also let me know they are looking for more instructors. They have waiting lists of kids who want to learn how to rock, but they need more people teaching them. So see Shelly, see Tommy, tell people in your network if they're looking to pick up some extra cash and they work with kids, or maybe a check, probably a check. Yeah, not cash, check. Talk to School of Rock. I know a lot of great people who are involved in that. That's Tello's in there. Dave Molnar, R.I.P. was a big part of that. A great thing. So now we'll turn it over to Lisa.
First, thank you, Sean, for hosting here. And I forgot to thank Cindy and Cleveland Rocks for doing the live stream. Yet again, they have provided all of the live streams, and except for the one at the Rock Hall, which you did. But thank you for consistently providing that, and then the video to watch after. So I just wanted to match two things here, what Cindy was just talking about with the incubator program. and programming that you want to, especially the programming you want to put in place, and then with the Rockers in Residence program at the Rock Hall. Now I know at the Rock Hall it's only about what two to three people per session. So I looked at your agenda of the list of what they get to do, and it's very similar. It's a great template. I think I shared it with you. A lot of what you listed. So is there a way, because I know a lot of it has to do with funding, which is probably why you're in time, that's why you're limited to a certain number of people, since Cleveland Rocks wants to provide something similar for people who apply and don't get accepted because it's a limited number of people. Is it possible to refer to some of these community programs that are doing something in a similar fashion and try to fill in some of that? There's clearly people who want to learn these things in some capacity, and this is pretty much what we have right now.
Yeah, and we are talking to Catherine and Lisa at the Rock Hall, and one of the things that we're doing is building a resource website. So a lot of that, Ryan, who's running the live stream right now, is in charge of our YouTube page. So we're going to talk about, because you're recording everything down there too, so that we can potentially make these recordings available so that people can go through our resource website and get information to everybody that way. I think that's the next step.
Like, about how many applicants do you normally get? I'm curious. YouTube kids
Cindy and I were right next to each other last night. Who were we watching? Hayes Carl. Amazing show, by the way, at Beachland. So, what Lisa's referring to is known as the Coolest Resident Rockers, and it's not COOLIST, it's Coolest, KULAS. And we partnered with the Coolest Foundation, and we're super excited because these are very common in, I guess in the fine arts, to have artists in residence, pianists, composers. Really, it's a pretty typical thing for orchestras and other high art, right? So we wanted to do artists in residence at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but we wanted them to be young artists because you can have the greatest impact at those with the younger artists as they're trying to find their way and help them move to the next level, whatever that next level is. And so we launched it 2 years ago, and we've had so far 5 artists have been part of the program. We keep it small because they also perform at our place. We hook them up with industry people. A lot of the things that Cindy mentioned, we transferred a bunch of it to Zoom, and it's a program that was originally envisioned for people that were already on their way. They had to show some initiative. They couldn't just be in their kitchen wanting to get out. They had to actually take a step themselves, have some songs posted, had played out some, and really had honed that idea that this is what they want to do, not just a passing fad that everybody thinks they want to do at some point, but they actually took those steps and got out of their kitchen. And then we thought they should be enrolled in a degree program, but we kind of overlooked that qualification this year, and I believe that all 3 of our artists this year, maybe one of them was just finishing college, but the other 2 were well out of college, or hadn't finished, but they weren't enrolled. And so that went away, and we also want them to be a cohort. So you can't have a bunch of people. We want a small group. They'd work together, they co-write, they play together, they back each other up, and they kind of feed off each other. And so that's what we did. We ended up working with a lot of local partners. They played a lot at the museum. They went over to Tri-C and used the studios there. They put out, they each captured their sound. They got some good recordings out of it. Our friends over at Goldfarb Weber did a video for each of them. We brought in some shooters and that were also part of a program we had, and they ended up with press kits and photos and stuff to walk out with. And our merch people helped them set up merch and stuff like that. So that's kind of end to end. Now they're out and on their way, we hope. But I'm sharing all those details because if you weren't specifically looking at the program and digging in, you wouldn't quite get that depth. But it's pretty deep, and we want to do more of it. And we may extend it during the year, but really we want to give them performance opportunities in summer at our place. We'll have thousands of people every single day at the museum, so it's a chance to play. And Cindy, we're happy to, So your question that brought this together is, thanks, absolutely.
The other thing you guys all need to support is the Panza Foundation, which also gives money to musicians and helps get them on the road. And that benefit is next Saturday here, I think, November 20th. So you need to come back to the Happy Dog and support John and his crew of people. Correct?
Yes, Panza benefit. Again, my eyes aren't so good, I can't see the poster over there, but it's coming up soon.
I think it's next.
And there aren't a lot of cities that have something like the Panza Foundation. So the more we can support them, they are directly giving money to artists. It's a great thing, and it's a model that we discuss nationally at NEVA when we're talking about the things that we do in Cleveland, like Listen CLE. We bring that up on the NEVA calls as things that are happening in Cleveland that can be a national model. So look for more stuff coming from NEVA over the coming months. I know we got David Kennedy coming up here as part of our facilitation.
Yeah, we're going to try to do networking if anybody wants to do that. The other thing I just wanted to remember to say is that we have a project called Soul City Cleveland, which is like documenting the elder African American musicians in Cleveland that have been a little bit overlooked. And one of the things that we're going to try to do is sort of like maybe get them to teach. Like Crazy Marvin, right? He's an amazing harmonica player. He played with Jimi Hendrix back in the day. Can we set up some sessions and have people who want to play harmonica learn directly from Crazy Marvin and people like that? So that's the other aspect that we want to do as far as building equity in Cleveland as well. So yeah, we can bring David up and you can kind of ask, maybe do the do your survey from here.
Oh my gosh, should I do that? I'm electric. You don't want me to start that now. I just wanted people to meet each other in Cleveland to get work done. Is that all right? Good job. Wait, no. It must be my fault. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my buddy Kevin here to talk a little bit about this, an online platform, but we're going to do some old-fashioned networking here. We got a few tables here. We're going to kind of talk, rotate, introduce each other. Anybody who wants to come up and introduce themselves. I'd like to get a couple of our, we have a couple of people from our music incubator program here who can help facilitate conversation, but really things don't happen in a vacuum when you're creating artistic projects, productions, and festivals, concerts, records. There's usually more than one person working on it. I get a lot of questions about how you get things done for individual artist success, and I've been focused on helping people take their ideas, articulate them, and chart a path towards success. And I've had a lot of people I've worked with in Cleveland over the past 2 decades that have opened businesses, put out their own records, gone on tour in support of gigantic artists. My graduates have worked with Jay-Z and Beyonce, Eminem and Rihanna, Kesha, Drake, Future, Weeknd, Travis Scott, Lumineers, The Who, Black Keys, you know, Madonna, Beastie Boys. But we're trying to make things happen here in Cleveland, and I work on a lot of records myself, and I collaborate with a lot of people, and I think more people should know each other in town. I know so many people on the east side who don't know people on the west side. I know so many people in the rap scene who don't know anybody who plays instruments. I know so many people who go to open mics and sing songs who don't know how to connect with somebody to put out their music. I know so many people who are thinking about ways to make money, that are thinking about how to increase the amount of revenue streams they have. I have so many friends that have big dreams. I know there are people in this room like that have big dreams. They want to make something happen in music. So we're all here right now. We're going to get together and talk, and I'm open to introducing people and having conversations with everybody. But my friend Kevin and I are working on a record. Please come up here, Kevin. Kevin McCarthy has a company that does networking and software development, or software development specifically for networking. And he's created a little tool for us, for those of you who want to connect outside of tonight. And can you tell them a little bit about...
Yeah, I wasn't planning on talking, or I haven't.
Yeah, you're on the
stood
spot.
stage
You're on the spot, yeah.
For quite a while. But anyway, so the idea is it's like an Uber community of musicians, everybody in the creative community, and this application, basically you share the link, and anybody who clicks the link is automatically associated to that group. And every week, they are introduced to another person within that community. The application generates a call-in number, so nobody has to exchange contact information unless they want to. It books the time on both people's calendar, it reserves the time, and
so basically it sets up
curates
blind dates for people who are in the creative community to meet each other, kind of in a random way, but you basically opt into a conversation with somebody professionally.
And both people have to accept the invitation for the meeting to get booked. But the idea is make an introduction every week. There's a LinkedIn link that comes with the invitation, so you can check out who you're being suggested to meet. But the idea is to make the matches and create the introduction and the opportunity for two people who didn't know each other before to
So Kevin,
have
you
a
already have
15-minute
this out there.
conversation.
This is something you've created. What's the name of that company?
It's called Meeting Machine.
Meeting Machine. So Meeting Machine already existed on putting together people professionally, nationwide, globally.
It's a community engagement tool for existing communities.
I said we need something to make people talk to each other in Cleveland, and Kevin just did this out of the goodness of his heart. I really appreciate it. So this is an opportunity we got QR codes, everybody knows how to use these. I'll bring these around, you could point your phone at it, and I just did it myself, and I got my profile on there, so if you want to have that kind of conversation, I'll be in the pool, possibly we would have a conversation online next week, maybe. But tonight, let's get together and talk for a minute. Happy to come in. I got Britt Fox over here. Britt, would you mind coming up for 1 second and introducing yourself? Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. We got a couple other people from our organization here, but Britt said she was willing. She's in our music incubator cohort, owns a studio downtown, producing music, promoting music, developing artists, helping people succeed. And she was just willing to help me get you guys together and talk. So we're going to be at a couple different tables and like maybe come around with each of us for a little bit of time.
Okay, sounds good.
Would you mind telling them a little bit about who you are?
My name is Britt. No, I have been making music almost all of my life, and I'm lucky enough that I get to do it with other Cleveland musicians now. I work at Bad Racket, which is downtown Cleveland, and also in my studio in Chagrin Falls. I'm an audio engineer, top liner, writer. Our music has been placed in Destination Cleveland. Also, like Bravo, VH1. So we like to get our word out there, and we could always do more, and we could always create with more people too. So thank you.
I appreciate it. And I think we have a couple of our people who are participating in all these conversations at the main tables up here in the front. So I'm going to be hanging out at this booth. If you want to come talk, I'm happy to talk about A, B, C, and D, and X, Y, and Z in music and around Cleveland. I've been making a lot of records myself and educating and helping people get jobs and pursue their careers. So I don't know if you have questions about that kind of stuff, and you're in the cool music that's happening right now, making things happen.
We're making music tonight.
So, and then there's some people in the nonprofit world over here. There's some people who are aware of grant opportunities, and then we're going forward with taking everybody's input in on what we're going to program for the next year. We're going to be putting together a calendar of professional development, workshop, additional networking events, master classes focused on improving the overall outlook for musicians and the overall music scene here in Cleveland. So I would appreciate your participation, whatever comfort level is cool for you. If you want me to talk about myself, I will do that all day, but I'm more there to listen and help you guys meet each other, but I'm happy to give out my number and whatnot to talk later about whatever you're working on, whatever kind of project or vision you have going on. Thanks, Britt.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody have fun, have a good night, make music, be happy.
Yeah, the music theater is grassroots entrepreneur program that I've been working on with building connections for a little while. And we had it going in a couple of places. So one is in